It looks like everyone seems to be noticing that game urinalism is on the way out. Yeah, game over. Is there a future for video game urinalism? No, there isn't. They've been replaced a long time ago. Gamers don't go to like Kotaku to get gaming news. No, so if you want gaming news, like all you got to do is generally just follow the corporate accounts' Twitters. Like that's it. Just follow the corporate Twitter accounts. And that's where you'll get all the announcements. You'll know the important information of what games are coming out and when. And then you go to like YouTubers and others to find out if they've been censored. The games media, though, they're kind of useless. If you want some actual information about the game, like okay, it's already out, so you know it's there. All right, so now I'm going to watch someone play the game live before I determine whether I want to buy it. And I've said this so many times. Let's plays are so good, specifically because even if the streamer that's playing the game was bribed and bought and paid for by the company to shill for the game and say how awesome it is, if you're watching them play live and you can tell the game is shit regardless of what they say, that's the advantage of watching like live playthroughs. It doesn't matter like if they were trying to put a positive spin on it to maintain access like the classic urinalists, you can still see the truth. With these articles, it's different because they can just take deceptive screenshots and make the game out to look better than it was. Yeah, games speak for themselves. Yeah, and you can see that. So by every conceivable metric, the video game business is booming. Industry-wide revenue forecasts are scheduled to eclipse $500 billion by current year plus 7. Not at the rate in which AAA has been flopping. After generating 184 billion in a relative down year of current year -1. That's just because everyone was at home still. About 3 million people are tuned into Twitch, Amazon's live streaming giant, at any moment in time, where they watch world famous streamers sink into languid Call of Duty marathons from the comfort of the plush silicone chairs. 66% of Americans can be categorized as gamers if you include casuals who enjoy an occasional round of Candy Crush on their phones. So without them, it's probably closer to like 10%. Many of them certainly bought tickets to Ryan Reynolds' current year -2 Grand Theft Auto Send Up Free Guy. 331 million at the box office. That was international though, wasn't it? Where is that? Oh, the more tuning into The Last of Us, the HBO series adapted from the current year -10 Censor Station Classic, currently the hottest prestige program on the docket. It was for like the first 2 episodes, and it's been declining since. So, Roger Ebert once famously said, "Video games can never be art." Now the late master's website is running raves about Pedro Pascal's performance. Yeah, no, what bugged me even back then was all the people like on quote unquote our side that were so butthurt about what Ebert said and trying to change his mind. Meanwhile, I was back there like, who the fuck cares? Who cares what an out of touch old boomer has to say? Why does it matter to you? But hey, people, they prefer the perceived legitimacy. So all this to say that dedicated video game desk, or at least a dogged video game reporter, is an essential requirement for any newsroom dedicated to fluent coverage of pop culture. If they were actually covering games, it could be one thing. But instead, they focus on inserting their political agenda into it. Oh my God. I love this too. When Elon Omar is showing off a monster PC rig and Horseface is playing Among Us as part of a voter registration drive, we're certainly in the midst of a vibe shift. Yeah. No, see, this is why you guys are failing. This is why you don't get it. Actual gamers don't want anything to do with this garbage. And yet this is all you want to talk about. So you're all about, oh, look at AOC is playing a game on Twitch. Oh, look, another squad member is showing off a PC rig. Meanwhile, actual gamers are like, I don't fucking care. All I want to know is what's coming out, when, and is it censored? And you guys are covering everything but that. So, and yet, even as the hobby's imprisoning nicheness crumbles, and that's why gaming's dying now. A ton of journalists on the game's beat have suddenly found themselves out of jobs. The feud is in the midst of a brutal, paradoxical contraction. The world's power brokers are investing desperately in the games industry, but games media is another story entirely. Well, that's because back in the day, games media was by fans for fans. There was no money in it. People did it out of love of the hobby. And as gaming got bigger, games media became the dumping ground for journalist school dropouts and failures. Like their goal is to make it to Bloomberg. Their goal is to make it to the New York Lies. But they can't, so they settled for the next best thing. And oh well, this Shitaku site is willing to give me money. And of course, they don't know anything about games. They don't like games. They don't like gamers. They don't like gaming culture. So what are they going to even write about? Sexism in gaming, of course. And then they chase away all the previous fans and readers. Well, they got plenty of places to go. And yeah, the amount of jealousy that they throw towards like YouTubers and Twitch streamers is insane. They really like they know their days are numbered. They don't like the competition. The last month, launcher, the Washington Compost gaming vertical that broke ground in current year -4, announced it would be shutting operation, terminating 5 of its staffers. Why do that? This is just like G4. Why the hell would you even try that again in current year? I don't get it. If you want us to break into talking about games in current year, you'd start a live streaming channel. In total, 20 people from the Compost editorial division were laid off. This news came on the heels of a number of smaller, more enthusiast-oriented publications hemorrhaging staff members at the behest of management. GameSpot and Ignorant, two bastions of games coverage. Well, that was the case maybe 10, 20 years ago, not anymore. Were shrunk by their ownership groups, Fandom and Ziff Davis, as the calendar turned over to current year. Fanbyte, which perfected a breezy, chatty, almost Gawker-like approach to industry news, has been rendered a ghost ship by cuts last summer by parent company and Chinese entertainment conglomerate Tencent. They weren't making money. Even G4, the ancestral early aughts cable broadcasting company dedicated exclusively to video games, was relaunched in current year -2 with a slew of familiar faces, lasted barely over a year before it was shut down by Cockmast in October. As others have said so many times, the only reason G4 succeeded back then is because they were the first on the scene and they had no competition. Now they tried to relaunch that same model, but with way less likable people and in a more crowded market. What did they think was going to happen? Now, the carnage has engendered a fatigued pessimism on those who want to make a career writing about video games. Guess what? Nobody wants to make a career writing about video games anymore. The actual fans who are passionate about games all have a distaste for the profession at this point. So the only ones left are the failures that they never wanted to work in games journalism anyway. They wanted to be writing for a reputable publication, but they couldn't get in there. So they had to settle for game journalism. That's their problem. There's so many stories in this sphere waiting to be broken, and ostensibly interest has never been higher, but who exactly wants to publish all of that hard work? Implying that there's even hard work being done, just calling gamers sexist and racist all the time. Now, I don't believe games journalism in the form we've known it is going to exist in a few years. Good, said Merritt Kay, content manager at Fanbyte, one of the few employees on the site who wasn't affected by the layoffs. There will be a few people covering big stories, either brought on by large media outlets or crowdfunding through Patreon, but there doesn't seem to be any appetite for additional coverage of games either on the supply or demand side. Yes, because it's already covered by live streamers. Your entire business model is old and outdated. Yes, it's being replaced. No, Merritt, like everyone else who writes about video games, understands that the current bleakness of the games industry ecosystem can be attributed to some macro trends in a febrile economy. Oh, macro trends like the industry as a whole turning against their readers and then wondering where the readers went? Media companies across the board are slashing budgets. Many of the offices affected, like BuzzFeed, Vox, Bustle, and Gannett, aren't reporting stories about Final Fantasy XIV. Still, it's telling that when the Washington Compost began its layoffs, video game staff were so vulnerable. Well, you spent how many years shitting on Final Fantasy 14, and then when all the World of Warcraft players moved over to it, now suddenly, oh look, it's the next big thing. Now, the fear that these kinds of pivots are emblematic of an ongoing discrepancy in the way games media organizations maintain their bottom line. Fanbyte has ditched its blogs and reports to function exclusively as a repository for guides, walkthroughs, and explainers for a slew of popular video games. Oh, you know what they call those? They call these evergreen articles. Even 30 years from now, there's going to be someone playing one of these older games and is going to look up a guide. Yeah, those are the ones that are still going to get them traffic. The opinion pieces, though, not so much. So, the advice you might seek out when you find yourself stuck on a Zelda that content draws a ton of easily monetizable search engine optimization traffic. Yeah. An idea the corresponding revenue will be reinvested in more artistic, more autistic faculties of game coverage. But in the moment when every venture capital prognosticator is warning of a forthcoming recession, editorial mandates have regressed into their most avaricious forms. Well, so game journalism in its current form is actually going to be doing better than ever without all this shit, though. That's what they need to realize. Like, and I think they do. That's why no one's reading these anymore. No one's investing in them because they realize it's pointless. So the same fate awaited GameSpot and Giant Bomb, two veteran game media companies are previously owned by CBS and both sold to Fandom in current year -1. Fandom's specialty is its wiki system. A company hosts a vast network of wiki-like rubrics themed after popular media franchises, which provide huge swaths of empty HTML stubs where an army of anonymous amateurs can write dubiously sourced treatises on the original X-Men. Guess what? How embarrassing is it when the wiki has a more a better track record of not spreading fake news than the alleged professionals? They always do this, man. The same media that always says, "Oh, you should trust us instead of those random bloggers because we got my fact checkers." They get caught in more lies than the bloggers do. And that's because fact checkers don't matter when they're all rushing to be the first to report on a story. The crucial distinction: Wikipedia is a nonprofit organization, while Fandom is owned by a private equity firm in Dallas. Naturally, Fandom doesn't have to pay those who add content to its wikis, nor is it traditionally in the business of funding professional editorial shops. So nobody was too surprised when, months after the acquisition, the company sanded down its payroll and terminated around 50 employees across both of its newly purchased assets. The aspirations of Fandom's subsidiaries are incongruent with the priorities of those who currently own and operate games media. A marriage was always going to end badly. Well, if you really want to go down this path, games media or their owners are incongruent with the priorities of readers, which is why they're failing so bad. Now, the mercenary implication of this strategy is that both Fandom and Tencent hold a remarkably dismal perspective on the overarching value of games journalism. It has no value anymore. It did maybe 10, 15 years ago, not anymore. They're being replaced now. We don't need them. Rather than bankroll anything additive for the hobby, they have instead decided to build a nameless, faceless empire out of muck of search engine SEO optimization. It is perhaps easier to make these cynical decisions in the realm of video games, which still carries a kiddie, low art stench among a graying cadre of media executives. No, they just see the numbers. The reason all these media outlets are failing is because they've been propped up by venture capital. Look, these media companies, these investors, they need to make a profit. They need to make money. They tried for like a decade to prop up the games media, and they finally realized that it's just not profitable. That's why they're leaving. It's not hard. This isn't rocket surgery. They've already thrown away enough money. They're not going to go full sunk cost fallacy now. Now, those executives are obviously wrong to dismiss the dignity of gaming culture out of hand, but lately, like Merit, I've been wondering if a sustainable audience truly exists for the sort of imaginative, in-depth coverage of the industry, that might encourage an idealistic J-school student, journalism school, to sign up for the job. No. Please stay away. We don't want journalism school graduates in here. We wanted, look, if game journalism went back to being by fans for fans, it's still on the way out because it's being replaced by newer media, but it could last a lot longer. So the wall's closing in for a reason. Is the juice not worth the squeeze? Yes. Stephen Totillo, a fixture of The Beat, who served as longtime editor-in-chief of the pioneering drama blog Kotaku and currently covers games at Axios, rejects the premise entirely. To him, a profitable games media organization requires a long-standing vote of confidence from upper management. Oh, yeah. Well, you're going to have to keep giving us money so we can lose it and not get mad when, when we point that out. Now, Totio has seen what looks like himself his most well-resourced stints overseeing Kotaku. The site reliably harvested 60 million readers per month. And were you making a profit? Now, games media does need to be paid for, which requires leadership at outlets like The Compost and elsewhere to sell enough ads and subscriptions to support it. Or get this, not expect this beat to immediately justify its cost. You were given like 7 years, man. What the actual fuck? How much more do you need? For gaming outlets, it requires leadership that understands that reporting takes time, requires strong editors as well as strong writers, and that will ultimately pay off. You were given like 7 years, man. When is it going to start paying off? The numbers just keep getting worse and worse and worse. It'll pay off eventually, though. Just keep throwing more money at us, I promise. Or you can instead just give up completely and accept that gamers are just going to live streamers now. So a source at launch determined that some of the site's best performing stories were investigations into the seedier underbellies of the hobby. Oh, so shit that craps on the hobby and brings in the drama clicks? Maybe that's why you're not getting any attention anymore. Maybe that's why everyone left. Mismanaged esports organizations, bad labor practices, and so on. I've been working in the media for over a decade. And in that time, I've learned never to take the lowest common denominator consensus of venture capital brokers at face value. Jeremy Gordon nailed it recently when he noted in the fallout of the Gawker shuttering that there is a certain type of digital media proprietor who sincerely believes anything unique or smart or fun has to be dumbed down for readers to get it. But when you dumb it down, it turns out nobody wants to read that either. Oh, if only the games developers and publishers themselves would figure that out. Now, that said, game journalists are at one unique disadvantage compared to the rest of the culture of dialogue because an expansive alternative media ecosystem exists on YouTube and Twitch, where hugely influential content creators like Felix PewDiePie Kjellberg or Mark Markiplier Fishbach provide their own commentary about games industry in a direct competition with reporters. Thank you. This is absolutely true. Game journalism has no need to exist anymore. They've been replaced. So no, PewDiePie isn't launching investigations you might find in more formal media enterprise, but you know what else he isn't doing? He isn't doing deep dives and creating hit pieces against the industry, calling everyone sexist, racist, or pedophiles for liking it and whatnot. It makes you wonder if the sudden spike in unemployed game journalists might be felt more acutely by the public if there weren't a bedrock of YouTubers sharing the same foundational bandwidth. After all, YouTube channel is never at the mercy of mercurial ownership. Oh, bullshit. That is proof that this person has no idea what they're talking about. Yes, I don't have a direct boss at YouTube, but YouTube routinely tells me what I'm not allowed to do. And if I overstep that line, I get fired, aka my channel gets deleted. Oh, these poor game journalists, they can't compete with YouTubers because they have to listen to a boss and follow rules. Yeah, because we totally don't have to do that here in YouTube. Gene Park, former launcher reporter who's now getting over to the Washington Compost style desk, acknowledges that some gamers believe that platforms like YouTube and Twitch have marginalized the roles of the games reporter, because it's true. But he notes that there's a symbiotic relationship between those who report the news and those who parrot their findings on camera. Oh, look at how they said that too. So guess what? Those who report the news, basically those who parrot the findings on camera, what you're accusing the YouTubers of. Many of those creators rely on the journalism produced by places like Bloomberg, Shitaku, or Ignorant, all of which have the kind of support and protection you need to accomplish such coverage. The industry is a gargantuan beat to cover, and the broader audience, that holy grail for anyone in the media today, only grow more skeptical of companies who seem out of touch. Yeah, so that's why when I cover an article by Bloomberg or Kotaku or IGN, it's usually to show how dumb they are. Because he does kind of have a point. Like there are YouTubers out there that they do just read these news articles all day and just like verbatim this. Oh yeah, so this news organization did the work. I'm gonna repeat what they found to my audience, and I'm gonna get way more viewers. I don't even want to give them that. Every single thing that they report on, for the most part, it's like if I just go to the Corpo's Twitter account, like that's all I need. Like these guys are useless in the age of social media. That's another one. Social media in general. Social media, they also it's kind of made these games journalists completely irrelevant because if you don't care about all the opinion pieces, if literally, like I said earlier, if all you care about is what's coming out, when, and is it censored, and I guess is it delayed, like that's all you care about is just the facts. Now, if I want to read up, like, oh, when's Tears of the Kingdom coming out, I just visit Nintendo's Twitter account for all the latest news. Boom, done. That's all I need. And I don't need to be visiting these sites to get all the hard hitting journalism about how gamers are dead and the industry doesn't need them anyway. Gamers don't have to be your audience. Yeah, well, what do you know? Maybe if you weren't so antagonistic with your readers for so long, maybe they'd be more willing to give you the benefit of the doubt. I'm taking crazy pills. That would never happen. No, additionally, while some influencers create a product that is journalism like, there's no ethical precepts or fact checking protocols buoyed on to a YouTube video. Once, dude, we tried this already with the regular media. They scream about Look, Gamergate was about forcing ethics into games journalism. Do you remember how much they resisted that? Yeah, shut the fuck up about ethical precepts. That doesn't exist in games journalism. Fact checking? The same rags that rush to be the first to report on something to get as many clicks as possible? You tell me you do fact checking? Okay, I'll admit, every once in a while, they do some long form investigation full of fact checking and whatnot. I'll give them that. But that's like 0.5% of their content. That's hardly enough to be worth the price of admission. Merit speculates that laxness makes creators more amenable to cozy relationships with game industry agents. Oh, you mean like the access journalism deals you fuckers have? Publishers and PR are likely happier dealing with them, she says. They're likelier to agree to deals for positive coverage. Yeah, and it's fine because once again, streamers have an advantage. It doesn't matter that they're positively covering your game. If they're streaming it live, you can tell if they're just talking out their ass. It's simple. So I like to believe that the media business is resilient. It was until it turned on its own audience. That despite the enveloping aura of precarity, we'll always be able to find a new buyer for good work after the old one boards up shop. Yeah, that's you covered it earlier. YouTube, Twitch, that's the new one. I still believe it to be true, but it's also undeniable we're running dramatically low on dream jobs in game journalism. That's because the game journalism graduates who failed to get into Bloomberg fucked it up for everyone. The actual fans who may have been dreaming of jobs in game journalism, those dreams are shattered now. Now they're dreaming of being YouTubers. If you wish to savor the triumphs and heartbreaks of the reporting process, you want to sink your teeth in a story without getting sidetracked by engagement mandates or daily blogging duties, you're unlikely to find those thrills on this beat right now. There were a few venues left. This kind of discursive writing. Wired and Bloomberg both employ talented games reporters who are given the slack to chase down ambitious projects. But for the most part, writing about games during this employment crunch requires one to grind out endless slew of skeptical AdSense mining templates that have been strategically expunged of the faintest whiff of voice or verve. Case in point, Fanbyte has a Wordle section. Every day, one of the dwindling members of staff writes up a short guide on the daily puzzle's latest solution, squeezing out whatever ambient Google traffic is left to be found. That is what constitutes as a job in game journalism in current year. And also, all as far back as current year -10, it was already this bad. Even before Gamergate happened, we started noticing, hey, these formerly game journal sites, they're all just clickbait drama rags now. Arts coverage has always been slim in every general news outlet. I got into journalism because I wanted to be a music critic, but there's usually just one of that in each city newspaper. You either have to wait until that critic retires or dies before you get a chance at the job. So there seem to be many opportunities to be a part of games media. There was. But if you do want that kind of journalism that takes lawyers and document hunting, I do think that there's truth that there's very few opportunities for it. It's the painful truth. Well, and I actually feel for those who wanted to do like real investigative journalism within gaming, but it's chasing ad clicks destroyed all that. But it's the same with quote unquote real journalism now too. It's all sensationalism. It's all rushing to be the first to get the story out, to get the most views and ad revenue. Fact checking can be done afterwards. So Park's conclusions bring to mind another conversation I had with a launcher reporter who asked me to keep her anonymous so she could speak freely. She told me that covering games at the Compost was a culmination of a lifelong aspiration. At last, after a career of stray bylines and institutional uncertainty, she could enjoy the ironclad security of legacy media. Yeah, this is on you. If you think any industry is actually secure, I got news for you. So, but nowhere, not even a newspaper owned by the richest man in the world, is safe for long. Now, as she shores up her portfolio and embarks on another job search, the reporter is contemplating a sobering realization. There isn't another spot for her to land. Yeah, you guys destroyed it. You destroyed your own industry. Like I've mentioned before how hilarious the transition was, where for years they attacked us. They shat on gamers, they shat on their fans, they shat on their readers because those are the headlines and articles that brought them the most drama clicks and ad revenue. And then the ad revenue dried up. And what happened then? Now all these websites that have been shitting on us, every article they're begging, like, oh yeah, you've read like 3 articles on our site for free this month. Have you considered paying us like $10 a month so we can continue bringing you this great content? Like, I don't know, man. After 10 years of calling me literally Hitler, I'm not really inclined to give you any money, asshole. The launcher represented a ceiling of her field, and now it's gone. So she's considering pivoting to a different beat. Maybe her next stop, she'll be a tech journalist rather than a games journalist. Before long, there might not be anyone left to cover a video game boom. Yeah, this is kind of what I mean. How much you want to bet that this person has no knowledge of tech either? This kind of vindicates what I said earlier. This person's aspiration was probably working for something like Bloomberg and then couldn't make it there, so settled for, was it the Washington Post? A lot of them have to settle for Kotaku or Polygon or Vice or one of those other rags. At least we're finally seeing some improvement in this space. And I know there's going to be a slew of people like, oh, well, OGE, they're not all bad. There's like one good person out of every 100. I don't care anymore. If you're still in that industry, for like, you've had how many years to get out of it? You knew how bad it was. You knew what was coming. I don't really feel too sorry for you, honestly.